such a privilege to be able to sit with you here today. I've actually been following your work for over a year now. Love the compassionate message you share with the world and how you really encourage people to kind of, come back to themselves, delve deeper into their emotions, and tune into their intuition and actually come back into their body. Because I think a lot of us are not in our bodies, are we?
Mm.
And I feel with burnout work, from my own lived experience and from observing and supporting others, is that part of this journey is that you have to kind of look and examine your patterns and behaviors in life. And then you start to realize a lot of those were shaped in childhood. And I love what you're sharing with the world about toxic parenting. And so I'm just so bloody privileged to be sat here with you today. And I'd love you to start us off by sharing a little bit about your story and how it's led you to do this phenomenal work that you do.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, look, what's led me to do it? I think that changes a lot over time, right? When I first started, it started off as a sober journey. So the first part for me was quitting alcohol, and I think at the beginning I thought my problem was alcohol, and then I realized that weren't the problem. I took that away, and I was left with the problem, and then quickly I woke up to the struggles that I've had growing up as a child. My dad was an alcoholic, and I lost him when I was about 9 years old as a result of that. And then I just really struggled with life. Like I found life very, very confusing. I'm what I would say is a highly sensitive person. So I sort of see and feel things very, very deeply. And so I've always felt like I've seen the world more clearly in some ways than some of the adults that I grew up with. And so I felt very confused a lot as a child, and probably still do as an adult, to be honest with you. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that can see things, right? I know that's not necessarily the case, but that's what it feels like. And then I found NACOA, which is a charity that supports children affected by parents drinking, and started supporting other people through their own struggles with their childhood. And I think the real thing that began to stand out for me is um, how difficult we find it to talk about truth when it's uncomfortable. And I think that's the big thing, right? I think what I try to do in my work is to try and raise awareness, raise consciousness of actually true healing for me means feeling all of the stuff that you feel like you're not supposed to or not allowed to feel. And that don't look pretty, you know? And so that's been my journey. It's been uncovering that for myself and then supporting other people in uncovering it for themselves too, you know?
Yeah, it's so challenging and confronting, isn't it, to look at the truth? Because I think, for some people will be listening to this and they'll resonate that, you've lived a life where you've covered it up. Because, and I think, I spoke to Jess and she was saying, when you grow up with a parent with alcoholism, you get very used to that subconscious message being, you don't talk about what's going on, you don't share it, you just kind of, carry on, and you get really good at masking.
Mm, mm. And I think that what I've realized is that's probably it's no definitely true when you grow up in an alcoholic home, but I think it's sort of true of our society as well. Like if you look at the way that our culture and our society is set up, we tell kids from the age of 5 that you'll be of no use to this world and you'll have no value unless you do well in this system that we're going to force you through in the next 10 years, right? So unless you fit that system well and that system works for you, and there'll be some people that it does, if that system works well for you and then you've got a pretty functional, emotionally available um, um, family unit at home, you might do all right and you might not need to hide who you truly are. But if you don't fit perfectly in that system, and I'd argue that's most people, um, or you've got some struggles at home with dysfunction, and again, I think dysfunction's more common than anything near functional, then I think you're going to have a problem, right? And society teaches you that you know, you need to fit in, and that you need to find a way to be part of the systems and the structures that we've created, you know? So I think everybody gets to adulthood hiding who they truly are. Yeah, I think everybody does, or most people.
Yeah, no, I'm right with you there. Like I know you've got kids. I've got a 17-year-old, so over here, like he's looking at kind of his future and what he's doing and the pressure he's feeling at school versus the kitchen table with me. I'm like, love, like, don't worry, like you're going to live your life, you're going to just follow the path. It's going to be, but it's interesting how our kids are kind of, they've got a toe in each pool here because it's like, do I fit in this society, this system, or do I kind of follow my intuition? And it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, you know, it must be. I think it just gets harder and harder for children. In some ways, there's like information overload for them, right? And
Yeah.
like they end up like, where do I go? What do I do with this? So yeah, I don't look. The internet's given us so much, but I think it sort of adds in so much as well, right? And it makes it even more complicated and even more difficult in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. Now, a lot of your work is kind of, you've started to branch like and focus on inner child work, haven't you? And
Mm.
I mean, obviously, I have just personally completed the Inner You program with you, which was, oh my God, Josh, it was just the most life-changing, nourishing, nurturing. I can't even put into words yet. I think I'm still processing what just happened. And it was
Mm.
just amazing. And so, what kind of led you to discover breath work and make that connection with helping people delve deep into their emotions and the inner child work?
I think because when I got sober just over 12 years ago, and I think for the first few years, I got obsessed with learning about why I was the way that I was. And I learned so much. I read so many books. I used to work in a factory until like 7 years ago. And so I would do like 10, 12-hour days, right? And you could wear headphones. And so I would spend those 10, 12-hour days, 5 or 6 days a week, listening to seminars. And if I listened to a good one, I would listen to it on repeat, learning, just learning all of the time. So I became obsessed about learning about why I was like I was. But I started to realize I know a lot, but there's something missing. Like, I've got all the knowledge in the world, but I still don't feel on some days like I've made any headway. And I had processes that I used to do. Like I used to try and meditate. Everybody talks about meditating, and I couldn't do it. Like when I closed my eyes, like people say, yeah, but you know, you're not supposed to clear your mind. You're just listening to what's going on. And I'm like, listen, when I close my eyes and sit still, it is horrible. And I feel worse than any time I've ever started. And nobody could really tell me why. And then um I used to go to the sauna at the gym, and I used to go early in the morning. There'd be nobody in the sauna. And I used to think, I'm going to sit in here for 20 minutes. And the fact that I was like testing myself to see if I could stay in there 20 minutes was enough to make me sit still and like be in myself. And what happened is I essentially had a breathwork experience in there because I must have been breathing in and out
Yeah.
because I was hot. And I had this big experience where I like let go of this big emotion. And in my mind, I was like wailing, but I was crying as well a little bit in real life. And I spoke to a friend of mine about it afterwards, and he's like, "Oh, that sounds like when you do breath work." And I was like, "Well, what's breath work?" I mean, I'd heard about breath work before, but I thought it didn't work for me, you know, because I thought I'd tried it a couple of times and it just makes you feel dizzy. Um, so he sent me a link at the time and said, "Try this." And then I was like, "Wow," I had a massive experience, very physical in my body experience, and I realized that for me, I think it's the missing piece of the puzzle. I think Western culture um, wants you to be up in your head, right? Consumerism and all that kind of individualism teaches you to be up in your head, right? To rationalize everything. But I've always done that. I've been a chronic people pleaser. I self-organize. When people ask me stuff, I work out why they've asked me. I give them the perfect answer. I do that in my relationships. I do that in my friendships. I do that in a one-to-one therapy session. If a therapist asks me a question, I think, right, I know why they've asked that. Let me give a banging answer. And then a therapy session will finish. The therapist will think, wow, that was an amazing session. Like we had so many breakthroughs, and I leave there and think, I'm so glad they think it was an amazing session. And I've done nothing.
Yeah.
I'm an expert at that. And so when you do breath work, what I discovered is that it really does bring you into your body. And so I look, up until, I know this is a very long-winded answer, but I'd done inner child work. I knew about inner child work rationally, but again, I'd sort of like, people say picture it, and I can't keep my eyes closed long enough. I couldn't picture anything. I knew rationally that if I could connect with my inner child, something would happen, but I'd never been able to get there. And then when I combined the two, it changed everything.
Yeah.
Like, it changed my life. It changed my life, and probably was one of the most like monumental breakthroughs that I'd had. And so from there, that's when I became passionate about. I knew straight away that I wanted to learn how to do it, and then I also knew that I wanted to make it accessible to as many people as I possibly could. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I loved about your breathwork sessions? First of all, amazing playlist. I was
Yeah.
like, hang on a
Don't
minute,
argue with my playlists.
we've got Pete Tong here, which that works for me because I'm like you. Like, yes, maybe I can meditate. I can't bloody meditate, Josh. I'll start thinking, and I also will start to I guess it is that chronic people pleasing. This is why going to a therapist would not work for me. I'd be too busy working out what answer they want. Like, don't kidder kidder. I know what I'm going to give for you. Whereas breathwork, you can't hide. Not that there's
Mm.
anything to hide from, but it kind of just puts you in a spot, I guess, where you just do things fall away for you. I don't know. It's profound.
Well, when you think about it, like I grew up in an environment where it wasn't safe to be in my body. There were
Yeah.
so many big emotions in the house that I grew up in.
Yeah.
I couldn't be in my body because to feel deeply was painful. So I think one of the ways that we protect ourselves is we get up in our heads.
Yeah.
And listen, I think everybody should try therapy. I've got friends that are therapists.
Yes.
I know people whose lives have been changed by therapy, and I just like. By the way, it's quite a new idea sitting one to one. It's quite a new Western idea to sit one to one across the table from somebody and just talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I just like, even if I'm not chronic people pleasing, I just will be thinking, why have you, like, I know why you've asked me that, or cool, that was a good question. Like, I'm never fully in my body. And it's not just it's anybody. I'm never, and the breath work takes you there, yeah. The breath work brings you into your body. And you say about the playlists, the reason I use those big tunes at the beginning is because we play a grounding song just before that.
Yeah.
Like, some people go to me, I love it doing a bit of slightly longer grounding session. I do mine 2 minutes because that's fucking too, excuse my language, that's too much for me.
Yeah.
Because you put when I do the grounding, I'm like, so when I do a breath work through the grounding track, I'm like getting myself sorted till the grounding track's finished.
Moving around,
Yeah.
thinking.
I'm not, like, let me get this. And then the fast upbeat music, it's like, I'm like, right, let's go for this for 10 minutes until
Yeah.
I get to the place where my mind starts to quiet. And I think, like, listen, there's loads of breathwork coaches out there, right? And everybody's different, and they all have their place. But I've seen so many breathwork coaches that say, I want to make this stuff accessible to people. I want to make, I want to bring breathwork to the normal everyday person. And then I think, well, why are you talking like an idiot when you deliver it then? Why are you like changing the way that you talk and making it like unreachable? And that's not, it sounds a bit pointy, and maybe it is. I can be a judgmental prat sometimes. But what I've always tried to do is think about the 24-year-old that I was. And the 24-year-old that I was wouldn't have gone to a tie-dye event where we're talking about transcending consciousness.
Yeah.
I would now. I love that stuff. Take me there. Let's sign me up. Yeah. I'm fully into it. I love it. But the 24-year-old me might have come to one of my sessions where I say, listen, if you lay down, it's going to be banging, and you'll be off your nut by the end of it. I promise you.
Yeah.
Right. Then maybe you'll get some buy-in, and then maybe these people will try it, and then they can go on and do that other stuff, you know? But it's just breathing at the end of the day. I wish I could tell people that I'm like some sort of genius with it, but I'm really not, right? It really is the breath work that does it. The power's in the breath work. There's no doubt about that.
For sure, but you do a brilliant job, Josh. Like, and I'm your perfect candidate for resisting this to the
Mm,
hill. So we do the grounding, we do the first one. I'd be like, oh, lovely bit peaked on. Here we go. Let's go. And then the second round, everything in my body is going, don't, because I felt myself like descend. I used to be able to do this as a kid, which is interesting. And I would fight it. But I would feel myself, and everything, every fiber of my being was like, don't you bloody do it. Don't you do it. Come on, stay up there, stay up there. And you would have this, it was like you were there right in it with me, because you'd be like, okay, just keep going because you're going to fight it. Don't worry. And I would just hear that, and then I'd be able to like get back on track. And then by the third one, it was like my body was just going, just give him love. And then I'd be
Yeah.
in. And it was
Yeah.
amazing. Visualizations were so powerful.
Yeah. And I struggle with visualizations, right? Like away from a breathwork session, I've got to do a breathwork session. Otherwise, you get me doing a visualization. I shut my eyes and I go, okay, well, like that. My mind just starts going, oh, I know why they're doing this. And oh, why are they trying to, like, my mind just takes over all of the time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the breathwork takes you beyond that. It takes you beyond that. And it's life changing. Like, people say to me, and this is, I'm just repeating what people say to me. People say this is like, this one session's been better than 30 years of therapy.
And I believe them. I believe.
Listen, I think that our bodies hold the answers. Like, I don't really, truth be told, I can't really recall a lot of my childhood.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of the things that trigger me that I then end up storing in my body, I can talk about them till the cows come home, but it's probably being triggered by things that happened to me before I even had a rational brain.
Yeah.
So I can talk about it endlessly for the rest of my life, and I'll never touch where it is. I'll never touch where it is. And I think that um, if you look historically, when we used to live in tribes and stuff, or the tribes that still exist today, they're all dancing about and breathing and shaking their body and moving and doing all of that. It's only like in Western culture, well, I mean, we've got the globalization of Western culture now, really, but it's only really in Western culture that's so fully embedded in consumerism that
Yeah.
wants to tell you you don't possess what you need. You got to go out and find it, right? And you got to buy it, and you got to. It's this that you suffer from, right? Nobody gets rich when people discover and recognize their innate power. And listen, to be clear, that's an overly simplistic way of. It's an overly simplistic idea, but I definitely think that there's some truth in that. You know.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. It's I just feel the work you're doing in Inner You, and obviously, the breathing space, is so important. And what I want people who have burnt out to really know is because, listen, you can do 3 weeks in bed, watching Netflix, eating Ferrero Rochers, wrappers everywhere. You can do that. But actually the real burnout work, because you'll just keep going in the cycles, unless you really start to look at kind of, why am I people pleasing? Why am I doing this? You can start to look, but then something about the breath work and Inner You that for me was able to then go to the next step, and then just kind of feel that sense of safety and security within yourself, which I don't think many people are putting together.
No,
Burnout
no,
recovery.
no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think, look, when we think about burnout and how we find ourselves there, I think so much of that's driven by needing to escape my body.
Yes.
Let me keep busy, let me keep away from my body because my body doesn't feel like a safe space, and I'm carrying all of this stuff. And if I slow down, it starts to come up. Like when we stop, yeah, and you take time and you think about the meditation that we talked about, yeah,
Yeah.
and how we really struggle with it. That's because it's scary, man. It's scary to be in my body. It's scary to do that. So my mind takes over and finds every reason why not to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think a lot of people live their lives like that. They live their life so up in their head, they don't even know how depressed they are until the body does, thankfully, what it needs to do.
Yeah.
right? Which is break you down. So finally, you're going to do something about it. Because, you know, we've been showing you and been showing you and been showing you, and you've been running away from it. So now we're going to have to completely like break you down. And like the body's so clever, you know. I was at a family party recently, right? And one of my family members there, um, we had to call an ambulance, but they like fainted, right? Um, and it ended up feeling like they were like having a heart attack, right? Anyway, we called an ambulance, and it transpired that the ambulance said the reason they fainted is because, and this can happen because they're in their like 50s or 60s, right? It can just randomly happen. And so what the brain does is it restarts and it makes you faint because their what was it had shot up, not their blood sugar levels, their
Blood pressure.
blood pressure had shot up.
Yeah.
So the mind made them faint. And
Okay.
then when you're laid flat on the floor, that automatically drops your blood pressure, yeah? But because we panicked and sat him up on a seat, it made it worse until eventually we panicked and got him in the recovery position. And as soon as he got in the recovery position and he was led down, his body restarted in the way that it was trying to do when it made him faint. And
Yeah.
so I think our bodies do that to us all of the time.
Yeah.
And so I know when I'm real, like one of the ways my body tells me is I get like, I've got quite sort of oily skin with crap pores, but I'll get like a bit of a like a what feels like a nasty spot somewhere,
Mm.
and I am always stressed when that happens.
Yeah.
I'm always not because it's happened. It happens because I'm overly stressed, and then it starts to come out of my skin and my body. Now, listen, I ain't a doctor, but um, I believe there's correlations there in our
Absolutely.
bodies always screaming at us. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always trying to tell you. And I think for anyone burning out or trying to not look at the dark corners in their lives,
Mhm.
maybe, we're constantly ignoring our bodies. This is why when people burn out, to the extent I did, I mean, Josh, I was a mental health writer, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
To the extent I did is because you're just abandoning your needs and you're not even looking at yourself. That actually, when I speak to people, they're like, I can't believe that happened to me. And I'm like, I know that,
mm.
that
Yeah,
you don't see it walk through the back door because daily you are not looking at yourself in the mirror. You're not looking at your needs. You're not meeting those needs. You are just so focused. And as you say, you're in your head and you are just escaping whatever's going on. And this
yeah,
is why we need to, really start to look at, things like breathwork because they're so, what I love about it, I mean, you have a free breathwork available on your website, don't you? But I did the free one before Inner You was being promoted. And honestly, it was a Sunday and I was like, I don't know. I really should try it. I don't think it's going to work. I don't know. But I really like the messages you put out on toxic parenting on Instagram. Like, I like this bloke. He's a great geezer. I know. I don't know. And that first breath work was just like, oh my God. It was so powerful because I have for many years not been able to cry for myself. And then when I came out the breath work, I was like, bloody hell, there's tears everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's some good emotional release there. And I think it's such a simple thing and it's accessible. But as you say, we're not aware we can do these things. And we're kind of looking at different other labels and things. But I mean, it's just incredible work.
yeah. And I don't like, I think it will continue to grow and become, more and more people will know about it. But it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to describe exactly the experience that you've had. Like you have to say to people, just go and do it
Yeah.
and see the experience that you have. And it's like, it shines a light on so many things. Like because I think like, look, I became like what I would call an alcoholic addict, right? Now, when you look at that, it's quite obvious that I've become a part of myself that's not good, right? A part of myself has taken over. It's very clear to see that. But if you become very busy and somebody who works really well, a byproduct of that might be that you become quite successful. And so then it becomes a little bit more tricky than looking at somebody who drinks too much to see that this is an issue, right? I'm successful, everything's just good. I'm a business leader or I'm a manager or maybe you become the caring version of yourself takes over, and you just become brilliant at caring for everybody else. And again, it gets harder to spot these things,
Yeah.
right? But ultimately, they're no different to when I was using alcohol to escape, right? It's just a different mechanism. It's a different thing that's working.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true. And I would put money on a lot of people who've burnt out are kind of it's always, Josh, the overgivers, the overcarers, the
Yeah.
overachievers. And it's those kind of personality traits that are just trying to do good, but they're just abandoning themselves. And it's
Mhm.
that your identity becomes the carer. I'm the good one. I'm the one who always lifts the mood in the room. I'm this, and that's your
Yeah.
identity, and your worth goes with that. So it's
Yeah.
hard, isn't it, to kind of go, oh, hang on a minute. What am I like if I don't do that because that's burning me out? What do I do now?
Yeah, well, when you create your whole personality and persona around how useful you can be for everybody else, when you're not being useful for anybody else, you're empty.
Yeah,
So you can't not be doing something for anybody else because you don't know who you are away from that.
I know.
So of course you burn out doing it, right? Because who wants to not know who they are? Who wants to feel completely lost and like they don't have a personality?
Yeah, yeah. It's so important we get this message out there because as people, kind of go, hang on a minute. Yeah, I want to recover from burnout, but I don't want to change who I am. I don't want to change too much what I'm doing because it's their identity. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the learning, right? Is that when you look at like IFS work, as in internal family systems work, that can bring the realization that actually the caring part of you is not an issue,
mm,
nor do you need to get rid of it. But we can't let the caring part of us run the show.
yeah,
So we have to learn, why does this caring part exist? What are they worried about? What do they believe would happen if they stopped being so obsessively caring? And how do I start to work with that part of myself to let it know that it can be there and it can be a loving, good part of my life, but that it can't be my everything? And what
mm,
you'll find is normally when you get to the core belief of the carer, right? For example, you may learn that actually the carer is so terrified that if we're not caring for anybody else, then we are of no worth and we're of no value. And then
mm,
you can start to teach that part of yourself. Well, let me show you that we are of value without the caring part. Let me show you about some of the values that we have as a person away from when we're caring for other people. And that takes a bit of work to recognize. And look, I think in many ways, a lot of people need a shock to wake them up,
yeah.
which is why I say, like, it's great, like, not as great that you burn out, but if you ain't listening and nobody's getting through to you and you can't see, then it's brilliant that your body does what it does
Yeah,
to you to make
yeah,
you look.
exactly. It took you down, and this is your moment now to kind of, the tower's crumbled. This is your kind
Exactly.
to pick up all the bricks that are you want to take into the next chapter.
Yeah.
Leave best. It's courageous
Yeah.
work, isn't it, Josh? It really is.
It takes a lot of courage. Yeah, it takes a lot of courage. And I think probably maybe one of the saddest things about it is that for a lot of us, it takes a huge amount of pain for us to finally decide to look at it, right?
It,
Um, yeah,
it does, especially when it's been modeled to you by your parent not to look at it. I'm just thinking
yeah,
of ancestral trauma stuff when it's been like, don't look in that box, don't look at that. For you to be
yeah.
like, okay, I'm going to look in the box. It takes a lot.
Well, I think it's not only modeled by our parents, I think it's modeled by society in general, right? So, I mean, the
Yeah,
message that we're fed from society is that you're not good enough, right? We live in sort of hyper capitalism, hyper consumerism, right? So
yeah,
everywhere we look, right, like marketing, at the core of marketing, right, is to feed you the belief that if you don't buy this product, then you're not good enough, right? So we're fed the message constantly from everywhere that we're not good enough, right? And that the solution exists outside of us, right? And so that's the world that we live in. We live in a world where our parents have sort of run away from it, and then you know uh, the world tells you it'll be all right. Just get this next thing. If you earn enough money, you buy the right stuff, you have a good house or whatever,
mhm,
that it's going to deal with it. But most of us find out in the end that it doesn't. It doesn't deal with it.
It doesn't.
If only it did.
Flick that switch and we're sorted. I know, I know. It's a hard thing to learn to love yourself and to show yourself self-compassion when you've never done that, isn't it, Josh? And how that's something that I really got from Inner You and has really helped me. I feel that was a missing puzzle piece. Actually, you know what I bloody love about your sessions is that I think in every session at some point, Josh, you've said, listen, I'm doing the work as well. I'm not perfect. I'm still doing, and you're really raw and vulnerable with the group as well. And I just
Yeah.
think it's so I don't know. I want to say it's inspiring. I feel a bit wanky saying that, but it's like really, it keeps you kind of thinking, okay, he's doing it, I'm doing it. You know, it's that community sense of community that makes you feel like, okay, I'll keep going. It's painful. It's
Yeah.
hard. I have some
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
things and bad, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. And I think like I've tried to commit to like rigorous honesty in that way.
Yeah.
But also like my go-to is to get addictive with stuff, you know? So I have to be really careful when I'm leading in spaces to not addictively think that I'm some kind of guru, you know? Because I think like when I first started doing this stuff, I thought I needed to show people that, you know, to have authority and to be listened to, I've got to show that I've got it all together. And then I started to think, but I haven't. So I can't do that and be authentic. And I recognized, look, I think most of us learn best in shoulder to shoulder environments.
Yeah.
And so, like I say it all of the time. I barely know what's good for me. So I don't know what's good for you. But what I do know is, what I do believe I can do is create a space where we can all reflect together and see what we can learn. And I think, look, that's the way that I do my work. When you look online, I don't give advice. None of
Yeah.
my stuff gives advice.
Yeah.
I'll unpack stuff and have a look at it,
Yeah.
um, and try and go a little bit deeper on it. But ultimately, we all have to do the work ourselves. We all have to sort of turn within and find what it is within us, because that's the only way, you know?
Well, and there's real power when you listen to someone share their story, how, you know, their experience, they will say things that you're like, oh my God, I feel that way too. I thought it was just me. Or they'll spark something in you. And that also, I feel, really starts that kind of, it adds fuel to that healing journey. It's so powerful to hear yourself in other people's stories.
Like,
Yeah.
I believe this to be true. When you, if you hear about anybody that's like been to a dark place and has come through it,
Mm.
if you ask them what sparked it, right? What sparked that? Very rarely will they say, well, I went to see a doctor and they said it was this, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't happen very often. Of course, I'm sure it does happen at times. Most people will say, well, met this person and they were struggling. And then I realized they were struggling with the same thing as me. And they vocalized something that I'd never heard before.
Yeah.
And then I started this journey. And
Yeah.
so like, and I think because what follows that is a moment of release. I'm
Yeah.
not alone, right? Because shame will tell you when you think or feel or behave in a certain way that you've never told anybody about, shame will tell you they're going to string you up when they find out that you think this, right? The world is going to hate you the way that you hate yourself for thinking it. And that's exasperated in the world that we live in today because people do cancel people
Yeah.
for stuff. Yeah. Um, so when you keep that to yourself because you haven't yet found the courage or the ability to be able to share it with somebody, and then you're in a group and someone goes, I feel like this, and you go, oh,
Yeah.
like that's killed me all my life. All my
Yeah.
life sat on that, and I've just watched you say it, and I've watched everybody else in the group nod, or people have put relate in the chat, and I think, oh my, like that's what group spaces give me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learn about myself most by listening deeply to other people. And I run a men's event and I go there once a month and I walk in and I think I don't know if I'm going to get anything from today. And then I sit in there and I leave there and I think, you know what? We're all messy and just trying to make our way through. And really, that's the comfort, because there ain't no answer. Like, life's messy, complicated, and hard,
Yeah.
right? And so if we can make one another feel less alone in that, right, rather than pretend that we've got the solution or the answer, then I think that's amazing. And that's what I try, that's what I try and do with my work. And I say to people, like, you're not going to run off into the sunset and never struggle again. Like, that's not what it's about.
No, but my God, does it help you? I mean, now I did the 6 weeks. I've just had a really challenging weekend, probably, I don't know, the most challenging weekend I've probably had in 10 years, say. There's
Yeah.
no bloody way, Josh, I would have come out of that weekend as well as I did if I hadn't have done an EU, for sure.
Oh, well,
I
that's good to
sat
hear.
there, honestly, I sat there and I thought, okay, like I've been through my burnout, I've done this, I've done this. And I've said to you, I've done a few programs, but there's something about inner you. And I now realize, I think it's because it's a space where there's both men and women. And I didn't realize it, but I feel safer with men than just women. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know
Mm,
that. And I think that's what, for people listening, like, I never want people to think, well, I tried this and it didn't work, so I'm just going to go back to my old ways. Like, no, keep going, keep trying.
yeah.
Keep trying new things, keep looking to see who kind of resonates with you. But
Yeah.
for sure, it's again, I can't put into words how powerful it is. I think I'm still processing it, but it's phenomenal work, which is why I'm so excited for your book to come out. Such a nerd and a geek, I always love reading the books. So your book's coming out, isn't it?
Yeah, it comes out July the 7th. Um, is it July the 7th or July the 11th? It comes out in July.
Yeah,
It's available for pre-order now, so you can pre-order it now. I'm actually, look
the
at me looking in my
pre-orders. Let's get the pre-orders
it's the
going.
11th. July the 11th it comes
Done.
out, and you can pre-order it now.
I
So yeah, it's amazing. I'm very
know.
excited.
Yeah, come on, tell me more about the book. Mine's obviously on order, but I want a little sneak peek. Come on.
Did you know that you can come to the free online retreat?
I'm doing it. I'll be there.
Good.
You know
Yeah,
I'm
so
there.
when that's available to everybody that pre-orders, which is exciting. No, look, the book is based on Inner You, but it's probably a deeper, more contextualized look at it based on sort of toxic parents and family dysfunction. And there's a lot more exercises in there than you do in Inner You.
Yeah.
But it takes you on that process. I start by trying to qualify exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about toxic parents and what that means, and then the book will take you on a journey to understand yourself on a deeper level, to connect with who you are in the world today, so that you can feel trusted in yourself to go and reconnect with your inner child and be able to become their champion. And every chapter finishes with a QR code. So you scan the QR code and that'll take you to a breathwork online. And so you'll get to do it exactly as you do on Inner You. You do the work, and then at the end of the chapter, you do a breathwork using the QR code. So yeah, I'm very excited about it. It's very new. I've never written a book before. And so I'm quite nervous about it coming out, because I know, like, I've got lots of evidence now that when I deliver my sessions in the corporate space or Inner You, we've done nearly 10 cohorts, like, I've got evidence to show that, I can be confident that people enjoy it, or, will have an experience, but I've never written a book before. So there's a bit of nerves that I might be crap at it, right?
My God, there's no way you're going to be bloody crap at it. There's no way. I mean,
Well, it might be. You haven't read it yet.
darling, it's like the way you speak, because obviously I've been following you for a while now. And like, I love your reels, I love the information, I love your lives. Oh my God, your Instagram lives are always really good. It's just, you are exactly where you're meant to be. This is what
Yeah.
you're meant to be doing right now. And to be honest, it's something, I've got teenage boys, but I will definitely be passing the book on to them and being like, check this guy out, because I
Yeah.
think these are tools that we need and we should be carrying throughout our life and sharing with one another. And so I'm just so excited for more people to find your work.
Yeah.
Because as I say, I can't say enough good about it. This has been so profound for me. So yeah.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. So yeah, look, I'm super excited. I'm super excited to get it in people's hands, and it's gonna, it'll mean that like the inner you process can reach way more people. So I don't know how much I can say, but there's already the potential for it to start being translated into different languages and stuff like that. So like
Amazing.
that's mega, mega exciting. And then I'm going on tour with it in July. So there's like in-person sessions where people can come across the UK and Ireland. So that's really exciting. They'll be like the biggest events that I've ever done. Um, so yeah, it's exciting. It's good times, I feel very grateful to everybody that sort of supports the work that I do and trusts me, because I feel like I have done things slightly differently in terms of the way that people operate in the space that I operate in. I've sort of,
Yeah.
as much as I can, I learned early on, people used to say to me, I, hope one day I can be as healed as you are. And I'd be like, that made me think I'm not doing my job right. I'm not doing my job right because that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I'm not more healed than anybody. I want people to know that there is an inner journey that we can go on. It's messy and, you know, doesn't always feel good, but we can all go on it. We can all go on it and we can all grow and evolve as humans when we do. And I think that's what people want. I think there's a yearning for that. I think we've been through um like like the guru kind of um
Yeah.
phase,
Yes.
online of like, what I would call almost sort of spiritual bypassing of,
Yeah.
if you do these three things and just focus on the positive stuff, then all the bad stuff goes away. I think people are getting a little bit tired of that because they're sort of realizing that it doesn't work. It
No.
works for a while. It works for a while because you can get up in your head and really focus on it, but it doesn't last forever.
No. And I mean, let's face it, we're hardwired for connection, aren't we? So it
Mm.
makes sense. And it's incredible that you hold these amazing spaces online. Like they really are so pure and authentic and raw and amazing. And they feel incredibly safe to be in, Josh. They really do. But it's amazing you can do that online. And it, to me, it makes sense that we're
Mm.
just hardwired. We need community. And so many of us have been operating alone or, just leading a community without, families, without, looking at
Yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
people.
And I think community used to be ingrained in us, right? And in the world that we live in today, it's less ingrained in us. And
Yes.
so we do have to find new ways to do that. We do have to find new ways to create community.
Beautiful.
And I'm passionate about that. That's why I do breathing space in the way that I do. Um, that's why I run the men's group. That's why I do inner you in the way that I do, because I heal in community. We talked about the one-to-one therapy, and listen, if that works for you, it's great. Like, absolutely brilliant. Keep doing it. Um, but I heal in community spaces. I heal amongst other people. That's where I heal. And I'm passionate about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to people listening to this and going, for those who have tried therapy or they're like, I don't know, I'm really looking forward to them going, maybe I'll try that free breath work. And then them having the same experience as me and then following the thread.
And the thing is, there's almost a stigma now as well, like around saying, therapy's not, I don't, therapy doesn't work for me at the moment. Like, it's like you're almost sort of not allowed to say it.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's great that it exists, and I love how much it
Yeah.
helps people, right? And up until this point, I haven't found any great deal of benefit from it. And
Yeah.
that's all right as well. Like, that's all right. That like but I think people struggle with that because people often hear what they hear, they don't hear what you're saying.
Yes. Oh my God, it's so true. It's so true. Oh my God, Josh, this has been just an amazing chat. It really has. I don't know, just, I keep saying it, don't I? Sound like a broken record. It's been life changing for me. It really has. And I even had the proof of the pudding by last weekend going, oh my God. And then going, okay, wow, I came out of that still loving myself, which I haven't been able to do for 4 to 6 years, still
Yeah.
loving myself, still having that self-compassion for myself, still being able to be grounded and within myself. And I thought, wowzers, there's no bloody way I would have been able to have done any of that if it hadn't been for you and in you and Jess and
Well,
Nick.
that's amazing. Honestly, it means the world to me. It means the world to me to hear people have such big experiences with it, you know? Like it does. I really try and sit with that and listen and hear people when they say that, because it's what I've always wanted to do, you know? I've always wanted to create something that can reach people and help them, you know, evolve and move forward in their lives. So it's
Yeah.
great, honestly. It's amazing.
I'm curious, what do you think little Josh would think of you doing this work now, of seeing you now?
Um, yeah, just very proud. Just very it's interesting. The truth of what little me would think is that there was never any doubt. The youngest version of myself knows of my value.
Yes.
Like my youngest version knows of my value. My value exists because I exist, right? My value is not my value is not dependent on what I do in the world or who I am. Like my value comes from inside of me,
Yeah.
from it, you know, and I think so the little me, once I was able to reconnect with the little me is always pure,
Yeah.
right? It's always like full of that childlike wonder and curiosity, like
Yeah.
never in doubt from the little me. But
Yeah.
we hide the little us behind everything because we become scared, because the world teaches us that the world's not safe. The world teaches us that you're not good enough, that you have to go and do this thing to become good enough. And so the real work is stripping all that back, going and finding the little you, and you realize actually none of that matters.
Yeah.
None of that matters. I am whole,
Yeah.
you know. And by the way, if you look at like spiritual literature, religious literature, right? Like probably the Bible is the one that I know the most, right? And I'm not religious in any way, but they all talk about that. The Bible talks about the great I am, right? Because what they're talking about is, and it says that God is within you, right?
Mm.
Well, religions say that. Why do I think they say it? Because what they're trying, I think, what they're getting at is the realization that it's all in here. You get lost. The world loses you looking for it. And
Yeah.
that's everybody's, I think that's everybody's journey. They go out in the world looking for it, realize it ain't out there, and then they come home to themselves in the end. But how dysfunctional our culture is that in the past, when people have woke up in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and they say, you know what? I'm going to start wearing what I want to wear. I'm going to start being who I am. I'm going to buy the motorbike. And our society calls that a midlife crisis.
And it's negative.
And it's negative. When actually, this is people that go, I'm going to be everything I wanted to be. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what other people think because I get to be myself. So,
Wow.
so yeah, look, to come back to the question, what would the little me say? The little me would say that it was never in doubt. And it would also probably say, I don't really care what you do for other people.
Okay.
Look
Yeah.
at this flower.
Yeah.
Let's play this. That's what the little me would say, because I'm
Yeah.
not a product of what I do.
No, you're just living and you're just in your truth.
I'm just being, yeah.
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 Yeah. I love that. That's so true when you said little me wouldn't see anything. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Because when I did my kind of work, I saw myself as four. She didn't give a fuck, Josh. She was
Yeah.
happy playing.
Yeah, and by the way, you've got your own kids, right? But you remember when they're younger, so it's not until they start growing up and start seeing like what the world values.
Yeah.
But my youngest is 6, so she's probably just come through the phase. But up until the age of 4 or 5, if I come home to my kids and went, I did a talk today in front of 500 people, right? And they said it was amazing and they want to have me back. What would a 4-year-old say? All right, can we play can we play
Yeah.
Uno?
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't,
Yeah.
because they don't care about that stuff, because they just want to be. They want to be present and they want to live,
Yeah.
you know? So that's purity. It's only when it's only like the different versions of myself that want me to go out and think I'm amazing because of all of this stuff. My truth is that I'm nobody. I'm just me, you know?
Yeah.
And when I'm present and in that, that's when I'm the most free, when I'm not a product of what I do.
No, but that's when the real good stuff comes out, I feel.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I've noticed when I'm in the zone, that's when all the good stuff comes out. When I'm like
When
trying
I'm
to
here.
marketing,
Yeah.
all of that, and like,
Yeah. When I'm present and I'm here,
yeah,
nothing else matters.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
Josh,
so true.
perfect place to land on. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for your time today. I'll put in the show notes links to your book because we want those pre-orders. Get your pre-orders
Get
because
the pre-orders in. Come to the book tour. It's going to be
yeah,
amazing.
do the pre-order because then you can come to the retreat. I'll be there.
Online retreat. Yeah, that's going to be
Online
good.
retreat. It's amazing. You just like give so much value all the time. You do realize that. You're just like here, 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 here. So
I
amazing.
can't help myself after time. I think I get, like I get myself in a bit of trouble sometimes with the team around me because I'm like, let's do this.
Come
Have this.
on.
I'll go on an Instagram live and then I have to come off and go, right, we need some codes for free entry to stuff because I've just been giving it away again.
I love it. I love it. You're a gift to the world, Josh. You really are. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man, but I'm sure people are going to be able to follow your work. Oh my God, I cannot recommend Inner You more highly. I don't know if I've said that enough times. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it and appreciate you.
Okay, cheers, Josh. Bye.
Cheers.